本期嘉宾是 Marta， 她是波兰人，在上个世纪末移民到美国，开始了在世界创意之都洛杉矶的生活。在过去的10多年里，她一直在从事与食物相关的工作。热爱美食和烹饪的她，因为在博客上分享食谱，获得了媒体和品牌方的关注，以及在食品创意行业里的工作机会，比如美食摄影、菜品设计、食物造型等等，并结识了许多和她一样通过食物表达想象力的艺术家。我们平时在外卖 App 上看到的那些诱人的菜品图，半夜手贱点开了的美食视频广告，还有电影电视里那些盛大又精致的宴席场景，都是他们的作品。2017年 Marta 创建了一个叫 Foodie Phoode 的网络平台，这其实是一个谐音梗， Foodie 和 Foodie 吃货这个单词同音，同时这个名字也是把 photography 摄影和 Foodie 吃货这2个单词巧妙地拼在了一起。 Marta 希望这个平台能够连接起食品创业行业里的需求与供给，帮助像她一样的美食摄影师找到工作机会。Marta 为我们讲述了食品创意行业的兴起，社交媒体对它的冲击，以及这其中诞生的一些非常小众但有趣的职业，比如食品广告的配音、手模，还有嘴模。天天与食物打交道，听上去很爽，但这份工作真的像我们想象的那样轻松吗？广告里那些让我们垂涎3尺的食物，究竟是实拍，还是另有不能说的秘密？为什么 Marta 说中餐是最难拍的菜品？你可以在本期节目的 show notes 里找到 Foodie 的网址和 Marta 的个人作品集，不过我强烈建议你不饿的时候再看。话不多说，我们马上来听一听 Marta 与食物的交集。This is Dedicated, a show where people share about what they are dedicated to. It could be a career or a hobby. They will tell you why they are so into it, or how they become so good at it. I'm your host Lulu, and making these conversations happen is what I am dedicated to. You can also tell me what you are dedicated to. If there's one thing that all human beings love, it's probably food. It nourishes our body. It nourishes our spirit. For some people, food is about desire, pleasure, and status. For others, it's a creative outlet, and they even translate this passion for food into an amazing career. Not necessarily a cook.There are actually other niches in the market, like being a food photographer, recipe designer, food stylist, and so on. You may not realize it, but their work is everywhere. From the crispy skin, well-seasoned chicken wings on your food delivery app, to the extravagant feasts you see in films and TV shows.Besides all the sweet perks, working with food is not always glamorous. It also calls for endurance, patience, and ability to work under pressure. In this episode, we talk to Marta, a food creative who builds a marketplace that helps thousands of food creatives just like her to connect with potential clients. How did she start it? Does she enjoy it? I hope you're not so hungry because we're gonna talk about food a lot in this episode. So today we have Marta. She's a food creative and she's also the founder of Foodie, which is a network that helps other food creatives to connect with their clients. And we will talk more about this just in one sec. And without further ado, I will let Marta introduce herself.
Well, hello, my name is Marta, and I'm a food creative myself. And as Kexin introduced me, I started a platform for food creatives called Foodie, which I thought is very, very needed in the market. So here I am, and I'm ready to open any discussions and questions that you may have.
So, Marta, what does a food creative do?
Okay, so this is kind of term that I'm coined myself, and for food creative, I consider anybody that does creative work related with food or uses food as a creative prop. So anybody that is basically doing that for commercial reason, because creatives are people that are doing creative works for advertising, branding, and I extended that definition towards recipe development, different types of content development, design, basically anything that is needed. Food creative does any work that is needed for branding, advertising, development of concepts for food industry, brands, services, institutions, clients, publications. So think about food magazines, food network, the media networks, the advertising that you see on the street, the photography that you see in the magazines, and anything that is related to that. And there's somebody behind it, whether it's photographer or designer or director when it comes to TV commercial, or copywriter, all writer, or the script writer, or somebody that basically developed the recipe for the concept. That's food creative too. And there are so many people involved into creating these things that we see everywhere, wherever you go. You go to Starbucks, you see photography, you see designs. So there are people that are food creatives, people that design that.
I see. Wow. Yeah, and how long have you been doing this, and how did you get into this in the first place?
Well, I actually stumbled upon being food creative by chance. I was interested in food always and cooking, and I'm originally from Poland. So every time I would go to Poland, people would always harass me how bad American food is. And I would say that this is not true, because there is so much culture here and diversity in food and basically influences that you don't even know about. Just because the only thing you know is McDonald's, it doesn't mean that's what Americans eat. And I started blog in Polish, and that was about 12 years ago. I started blog in Polish about food, which I started photographing for and writing articles, and then somehow the blog became really popular, and it's probably the most important blog on American food culture in Poland. And somehow people here got upset in the United States that I'm writing in Polish. So I started blogging in English and doing, illustration and recipes. And somehow some food magazine in Poland find me, and they wanted me to become columnist for them. So I basically became like a columnist doing monthly issues for them, and also started developing recipes for them and writing articles. And I did a few issues, and somehow because of that, I started getting more job requests, and that was before everybody was creative. Nowadays, everybody's doing that on Instagram. That was way before the social media launched, so nobody was really doing that. And then from, basically doing all these food magazines, then I live in LA, so there is a lot of production work. I somehow got hired to, jobs that are for motion, and then I started seeking clients and projects on my own, and just somehow grew into the big thing that I didn't even notice when. But I was always somehow affiliated with creative industries. I worked with the designing sets for movies before, but it wasn't just food related. It was just general creativity, but food was just my thing. So and then when I started doing it, then the market changed, and the social media kind of changed the landscape and the way people are being hired and the clients contacting. There's, the old system sort of collapse, and the tech was trying to build a lot of solutions that are just really bad. And I decided I need to build a platform that actually reflects how the market functions and how the market basically works.
I see. You started blogging kind of like a passion project, and then you found out that there's tons of business related to food, so you kind of just turned this into like a full-time business, and your business also evolved with this changing technology and all those social media stuff, and that came to Foodie, where you realize there's actually something needed for the entire community, and that may also help you to better identify the trends or demands or the skills that is needed for this industry, right?
Yes, this is exactly what happened. The problem, the biggest problem with the creative industry is that the food landscape changed. We used to have 5 corporations in America that basically controlled the food landscape and a bunch of restaurant chains. And then somehow about 10 years ago, everything started crumbling because the internet gave people access to making things and, information, more information and ability to make. And Americans are very industrious and entrepreneurial. So they started developing brands, like everybody knew that the big, big companies are putting poison in food and people didn't want to eat that. So they started developing a lot of brands and, all of a sudden we have like this giant market of all these products that need all this advertising. When the social media came and everybody's trying to look for content and there's like so many new formats that the content needs to be developed in. And before it used to be just TV advertising, really expensive commercials that often costed like $2 million to produce. So imagine how expensive that was, and only few people knew how to get into this or had connections to get into this or talent to become stars. There are a few directors and people producing those commercials. And then when the social media came into life, the demand for content became so huge that everybody wanted to become a creator and create some kind of videos or films or photography. And that created a lot of new and different styles that we were used to in photography or advertising before, That what I build into Foodie actually reflects that the changes in style, because the old stuff is needed, but the new stuff is needed. This different skills are needed for social media. Different level of skills is needed for the high-end advertising that costs $1 million to produce versus something cheap that you produce for Instagram. So there are many different levels of creativity and skill that go into it. And Foodie is designed to basically accommodate everything, like every type of skill, every level of skill, every budget, and, anything that any brand, whoever needs that food creative content or whatever that is, can be found on Foodie, ideally.
I see. So do you have a rough idea of how many food creatives are there at Foodie, and also how many new client requests are posted weekly or even daily?
Well, I really, because I'm building this right now, so there is no really features for that, but I have about 6,000 creatives just organically. And this is just people just starting, because if I get the funding from VC or something, and I can really start basically building more features and marketing platform at scale, I believe I can have about 3 million creatives in less than 5 years. So this is basically just the platform is in the MVP phase, and I'm testing and I'm engaging all these people. So that's why it's a smaller group too. And these people are actually giving feedback and doing that. And there's about 10% of the people that are registered with the platform are clients of different types. There are brands, restaurants, agencies that are looking for the creative talent. But the need for this platform is huge, and there is a lot of motion around it, and people inquiring and jobs. People are being hired for, writing articles for blogs. People are hired to become, photographers. There are people are being hired basically and exposed to different opportunities through Foodie. And it's also a great tool for people to market themselves, because you can do portfolio, you can build your portfolio that is actually tagged in a proper way, so it's searchable and picked up by Google in a way that you want to be found, because the way I build it, it's based on the model of the market, and everything that is built into it, it's basically designed to be found for very, very specific skills. So that's the whole thing. And yeah, the platform gets a lot of interest, and people asking, and basically being very curious about it. I'm actually thinking about starting a blog too, and creating discussions, because there is a lot of issues and people want to basically get on air and talk about it too. So there is a lot of different things going on, in this MVP phase, testing the project, the concept.
I see. Yeah, I would say the website already looks pretty nice, and also I love the oven on the front page. So did you design it by yourself?
Yeah, basically I'm very, very, when it comes to like the look and the feel, that was me. Of course I had people to help me, because I'm not a designer. Like technically I don't know how to design or use the software for that. Or if I do, it would take me way too long. But the photography, it's something that I did myself, and all the graphic design is according to my direction. So basically everything was sketched by me, and just a lot of work, and pushing people boundaries and trying to make it. I wanted to be very food forward. So because I feel like a lot of tech websites are just very generic and not cool, and they all have the same illustration and they're boring. And I wanted to have everything that basically reminds that this is platform for food created. So anything from like pop-ups. The pop-ups are like plates with food on it, and things like that. There's like food everywhere there.
And I'm also curious, who are those clients? So I could think of like restaurants, magazines, or cookbooks. What are other clients that are also in need of this food-related contents?
There's a lot of different agencies that do advertising or different food concepts, not just people need stuff that, like documentaries about food. Like some companies need somebody, the company that grows onion, they may need somebody to go and do like documentary about how food is being manufactured. Or also, there are people that are manufacturing kitchenware, knives, plates, anything that you are using in the kitchen, appliances. So if you look at advertising and branding, there's always there's always food involved there. There are also lifestyle brands, there's always food present somewhere. You see the happy couple, but somebody may be drinking latte. So, if this is like a brand that is doing that, they may need somebody to style that latte for that photography. So basically anything from developing recipes and photographing step-by-step, process of cooking something and writing those recipes. Even writing recipe requires skills, because it has to be properly done. It's like nothing is, when you use measurement, those are professionals that have to do it. Like for your blog, you may be, you may do whatever you want, but if you are a brand and you are, officially releasing recipes, they have to be done in very particular way. The measurements, they have to be tested. They have to be properly measured and translated, and step by step, it has to make sense. There are standards, skilled people know how to do it. Sometimes you need this standard, sometimes you don't need the standards, like for social media, people are more spontaneous and they're doing things just off the cuff. But, if they are done for branding purpose, or then they require somebody that actually knows what they're doing. Actually, I have the people that are present on Phoode are also talent. So for example, actors and talent that takes part in the commercials or photography, because think about it, you have to have a hand model that is holding the burger, or somebody. So those are called hand models. So people with like hands, and you have to find these people. Like you can't just have anybody with like ugly hands that are gonna look unappetizing, So this is basically the platform to find anything, like from A to Z, kind of like Amazon, their linking and search engine for all these people. I have people that are juggling fruit. So if somebody needs something like that for commercial or some other skills, you need people. There are people that have voice over commercials, and they specialize in food stuff. There are different sound effects. So anybody that does something creatively for that type of stuff, belongs to Phoode.
Oh, wow, that totally opens up a new world for me. Yeah. Sounds like there's like tons of opportunities there, and I think every creative, they can find their own niche, and there's even like a niche within the niche.
There are food stylists that are very highly skilled and well paid. Some of these people make like thousands of dollars a day. Some of them don't. But the food stylist that knows how to style ice cream for packaging and other things, those are very rare skills, and there are very few people like that in the world that do it properly. So the platform is basically allowing clients to find these people according to skill level and things they can do and capable of. The problem with the social media is that a lot of those people from social media, they think they can start ice cream, but then they could never last on that job. They would never be able to style that, the way it's needed for advertising or branding by big brands. So definitely it's basically sorting out different level of skill, different level of experience, different level of media, like I said, because different media requires different concepts. So yeah, that's Phoode.
Yeah, and is there like a lot of competition? And I mean, as a food creative, how do you stand out among your other competitors? And what do you think sets your work apart from others?
So it's really hard. There's a huge competition, and the best people are always the busiest ones. But then again, there are different level of projects too. So, there's more trend to do stuff organically and get sort of so-called user-generated content. So brands nowadays hire people that are less skilled. The content look more organic and kind of like the users actually generated it. So it's kind of lying, really. But the brands are selling products and doing that. But there is always need for somebody that have this high level skill, like this, like the food stylist that knows how to style ice cream. But what sets you apart, I think, if you are like really good and creative and you have different ideas than anybody else, that will definitely set you apart. When it comes to like professional, commercial food creative scene, like you have to not only be good and creative, but you also have to understand the business and the industry. It takes years to really understand the know-how, the etiquette working on set with clients. And it's also a lot of diplomacy, because you have to do things you don't often like, or you have to style or do things, direct things that are just, aesthetically not in your scope. So being commercial artist, it's more following the direction of the client and the concepts and fulfilling like the vision of the client, while the social media stuff is more spontaneous and gives more room for like experimentation and just being yourself. However, that changes too a little bit. So basically you need to be really good, persistent. You need to know the etiquette, and like my work really evolved into thing called creative direction. So I because I did photography and styling, and I know the market from many different levels. And what interests me the most is the creative direction. So basically developing the concepts, matching them with the profile of the consumer. Basically, there is a lot of psychology involved into developing those concepts. So it's not just like somebody decides to create pretty picture. It has to, if it's done for commercial reason, it has to basically target people's behavioral things. They have to, if it's meant for women, you have to put certain things into this. And so there is a lot of creative work. So that's what I'm really focusing on nowadays. And that's what Phoode really does too. Like I'm trying to understand the users, the audience, the customer, the consumer, mentality. So that's that. By trade, I'm actually sociologist. So this is sort of derivative of what I studied at school.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mention that because I remember you were a sociology and business major. I feel that helped you a lot.
But the business really you learn as you work. Like you can only have like basics at school. Like this is all theory, but the reality of running things and managing things and figuring things out is basically taking risks and not being afraid and understanding the market. So it's much more research, intuition, and of course you have to have basics of understanding of business and how it functions and how to organize things and how to build relationships. There's like so many aspects of doing things.
So you mentioned you've done a lot of like food photography. I'm just curious about like your work routine. Like I know like many of the times you don't just take one photo and call it a day. It might take you like a long time and you need to like capture multiple shots to be perfect. Yeah, I'm just wondering, are there any like challenges you encounter when you're taking photos of food, and what was the most challenging shot you've ever done, and what is that food?
Okay, so yeah, it's the clients depend on client again, like depend on budget. It used to be that during one day you just took one or two shots because they were so complicated. Like this ice cream stuff, that's really complicated, and it takes a lot of attempts to really get it right to the client's vision. So for social media, you probably don't have to be perfect and can, like I said, can be more spontaneous, but basically translating things into client's vision, it takes long time. When you work with like a big creative team, the creative director will be pushing you will be pushing stylists and photographers. Like you have to set up lighting. So there's a lot of test shots and things. And then you just keep pushing because the food doesn't move as a model, The model can just say, strike the pose, do this, do that. Yeah. And the food, it's the stylist that basically pushes that, makes that perfect. So you may have cup of soup with some garnish and the director will be telling, no, I don't like that potato. Move that potato like this. Or like, I don't like the color. It looks too cold. I don't like the balls. Let's switch the ball or maybe like do something there, add something there. So it takes sometimes hours to set things up. And the most challenging shots are the ones that there's a lot of legal issues when it comes to advertising. Like when some products cannot use certain colors or things. So you have to be very, very specific. And my challenging product was when I was studying the ugliest fake juice that didn't really have the ingredients that it was named after. And we had to use other ingredients and it was just red and nothing. And it would just like look like red, nothing would come through, but I could not use anything else. Because that's how the brand direction was. Like you could not possibly do it, make it look good. The same thing I was studying for Chinese fast food chain. I'm not gonna say the name. And we were studying everything like on their menu, like every dish they have. So one of these dishes was like the brown beef, and it was just brown beef. It was just really ugly. It looked like, I'm not gonna say like what, it looked really bad. And you cannot add because it's supposed to be the way they sell it. So you could not ask anything green because when you photograph product, it has to be the way they sell it. So I could not add anything, I could not add, spring of onion or anything or pepper to make it look good. It had to be the way it's sold and it just looked awful. And you still have to and the client is standing there and they know that it looks awful and there's nothing you can do, but you have to try to make it. So you sculpt it, you do things. It's just pure insanity. So you have to play with lighting but it's still, so those are the difficult shots in food photography.
I see. I remember watching some videos. So they pour motor oil over pancakes, like they're using fake food. So that is not always the case, right?
Like you're not supposed to really use fake stuff, especially like, for example, if you like, they used to use like potato starch to make ice cream and shortening to fake it. But for example, if you are selling ice cream and the photography is for selling product ice cream, it has to be the real ice cream. That's why it's so hard to style it, and there are few people knowing it. You can't really fake stuff. If you're doing something for social media just for fun, yeah, then you can probably use the oil, and pretend that it's the maple syrup. But if you were, for example, if that was the advertising for maple syrup, you could not fake it. It would have to be the maple syrup. And there's probably, some kind of food stylist. I never really had to fake anything like that, but the style is probably fake and play with the texture. So it has to be more sticky because you cannot, the regular maple syrup is really kind of liquid. It's not like honey. It's thin. So, the stylists need to use probably some substitutes or thicken something so it's basically more sticky. And it's easier to photograph and pour it, it stays in place. So every stylist has secrets or things they do, and it depends, and a lot of times you have to test things too when you have something you never work with. Usually when you work as a stylist, you have a prep day that you can test all these things and ideas and see how it works, so when you go there, because when you're working on set and time is precious, like you don't have time for experimentation. But still, like there's always issue that may come up, something that you didn't really anticipate it. And then you have to think on a fly and basically come out with creative solution. That's why only few can do like this really commercial food stylist job when you are working under pressure. And you have to come out with like creative solutions. You have to be like you have to know food really well and how it behaves, and also be very crafty.
Yeah, and I also noticed the photographer usually will include some different kinds of props in their picture to make the picture look more appealing, more dynamic. So do you have your favorite props when you're doing food photography?
Well, just like I said, it depends on projects, because most projects have very predefined props. So if it's like this is the shoot ordered by brand, they have a specific vision. So there's always somebody, usually on the bigger shoots, somebody called prop stylist. So they have to source those props. They have to match the style and, consult it with the creative director or whoever is in charge of that. So I don't really have props, but I can tell you that I don't like styling food on rectangular plates because it's just really hard and it just gives a really bad perspective in the photography. Like rounder shapes are much nicer too. And, maybe a little bit deeper flat plates are kind of tough. So there's a lot of, this is all about perspective and like geometry and building the set and making things look good, because whatever you see like with your bare eyes, it will look completely different through the lens of the camera. And also it depends on what lens you are using. So there's a lot of, that's why these people need to be skilled, because this is really skilled and you have to understand that, So artists, professionally trained artists and sculptors, they will understand it. Or people that just generally understand the geometry, photography, lighting. There's just so much more involved than just making food and bringing plates,
So your job is to play with food and experiment with food. So it sounds very fun and very rewarding, and it can also like pay well. But I assume there are also things that are not so glamorous, things that are not a whole lot of fun. Yeah, I'm just wondering, what are the struggles of being a food creative besides all those great things and all those bonuses?
Well, finding the clients, that's the biggest struggle. And also, this is really hard to physically work. It's nothing glamorous. Like you are on your feet nonstop and it's very stressful, and the client is often sitting there and, saying like, I don't like it, do this, do that, and time is running out and you have to do it. So you have to be very diplomatic. Sometimes you just want to be rude and just say, just let's stop it. Or like you disagree. So you have to be very diplomatic. You have to you have to basically be very patient. Basically, you have to be physically fit to do this job because you're going to be on your feet a lot when you do that. And this usually shoots, the standard shoot time is like 10 hours with lunch break. So basically it's not a job for people that are not physically strong because they're going to get exhausted, and you have to run, you have to bring things, change things. So it's a lot of work, mentally and physically exhausting for sure.
And then what is the best part of it?
Just when you see the pictures and it looks good and you see the client that is happy, and then when you see the picture somewhere and it looks good or people say, oh, this is great, So this is really rewarding. And also planning, it's kind of fun, like, figuring things out and just if when you have like a really nice shoot that allows you time to think about things on set that you don't have like just like the social media clients, they want a lot of shots, which is, they don't understand how much work goes into it. But when you have luxury to work on this more expensive shoots with bigger budgets and you don't have to do like 50 shots or 30 shots like the small brands from social media want, but you can do like 3 or 5 shots or even less sometimes. That's really cool because you have time to really make this perfect. And, it's really rewarding when you have like actually this luxury to take your time to do something really well instead of like being rushed and doing things in hurry under pressure.
Yeah. And what is your personal favorite among all those food you have been worked with?
My favorite food? I actually had a really cool project not too long ago that was a seafood for a seafood company. And we photographed about 40 different types of different seafood species. And then it was all raw seafood. And some of it didn't look too cool or it was very hard to photograph. So I kind of like that. And it was a very creative challenge. And then the creative director had a very specific vision. They wanted to make something like artful out of the raw seafood. I love that, like the raw fishes, and it was very minimalistic style, and I thought it looked really, really pretty. The project didn't come out yet, and it's still, I can't really say what it was, but it was pretty good, and I really look forward to seeing that in live. So that's the raw seafood was actually a pretty cool project that I did. Because everything else, like packaged stuff, it's just boring. Everybody, like, you just see so much of it, but that was pretty unique. And then also the eating that seafood later, it was nice too.
Oh, I see. So the photographer can get to eat, right?
Well, I mean, you don't really want to eat seafood from set because especially, you were sitting there for long, you're probably going to get salmonella, but I got some seafood home that was fresh. So I was able to eat it later. And sometimes you get really cool food you can bring home, or you can actually share food too, because there is a lot of food waste. So you can take that food and bring and give it to other people, Sometimes I have like so much left over, so I give it to like strangers or neighbors or people that I know they need it. So that's a good part too, that you can actually share something after.
I see. Do you miss any food from Poland? Because I know like a lot of immigrants, they have a hard time finding the most authentic food in the US. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, there are a couple, because I like to cook, so I can, if I miss something, I just cook it. And there are a couple Polish restaurants in LA. They're pretty awful. I would not recommend them. But there are, and I basically can cook anything. So whatever I want, I just make it. So I can find the most authentic Polish food in my own kitchen because I can make it. So for me, it's easy. And there's really everything you can buy, pretty much every ingredient you can buy here. So it's not really hard. It's not really hard.
Yeah, because I just went to one of my friends' dinner party last week, and they're also from Poland, and I could feel they're pretty disappointed by the bread in the US, so they bake their own bread at home. And this is also true of one of my friend who is a French, and she has so many complaints about American made cheese, and she miss French cheese a lot.
Yeah, but then you can buy French cheese anywhere here too. And the same with bread. I feel like San Francisco, where you are, has the best bakeries in the world, like 13 Bakery, and there are like, so if your friend doesn't know where to buy bread, send her to 13 Bakery, because this is the best bakery in the world, and they don't even have bread like that in Poland. So all the immigrants, they just don't branch out. They don't know where to go. If she goes to Trader Joe's, she can get, decent bread. Yeah, a lot of immigrants like to complain, but they don't really like explore the possibilities. And California has a lot to offer in terms of food, especially Los Angeles and San Francisco. Like I said, San Francisco 13, it's like the best bakery in the world. So send her over there. But it's gonna be expensive. It's not gonna be cheap. She will have to pay like more than $10 for a loaf of bread, but it will be real beautiful sourdough bread that is like she could never buy in Poland probably.
I see. Yeah, I will definitely let her know, and maybe I will check that out myself. Yeah, so you mentioned you work with a lot of clients, and most of them like commercial, but do you still do personal project, just keep yourself motivated and for the pure purpose of joy?
Not so much anymore because I'm just busy doing it. But somehow I do things called testing, with some people that I know, some photographers or stylists, you just get together and you do project for fun. So I don't do it that much anymore. And I wish I had more time for that or space in my head because it's fun. I cook for myself and just photograph with my iPhone, but it's, it's just, I don't really, I feel like ever since I started Foodie, I just don't have time. But I do come out with the ideas for Foodie. So that's my passion project because Foodie is my passion. It's like my baby. So whatever I do for Foodie, I guess that is sort of my fulfilling my personal needs for doing something. So yes.
Yeah. And I also like this name of Foodie because I feel a lot of people love to call themselves foodies when they introduce themselves to others. The love for food is a very good icebreaker when you're meeting new people. So
it is. And also the Foodie, because it's spelled Phoode, it has meaning because it's for food. PHO is for photography. And the E is for design. So it kind of includes all the things that Foodie is all about.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah.
I was thinking very hard. So, and I trademarked that name too, because I thought it was good. And, I had different name before and it was called Culinary Lens, but it didn't sound like a good platform name, It's too long and just too clunky. So I had brainstorming session with a lot of people trying to come up with something. And, it's hard because a lot of domains are taken with the catchy name. So it was really hard to come up with something. But Foodie, sounded really good and was actually available. There was a company called Foodie before, but they shut down. So the domain was for sale.
Oh, you're lucky.
I was like, yeah. So now it's mine, and I trademarked the name, so nobody else can use it.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, that's basically all my questions, and it's so nice to have you here, Marta. And so if you love food, I highly encourage you to check out Marta's work. And if you want to showcase your food-related work, or if you want to hire food talents, you can also check out Foodie.
or if you need some, consultant that understands or for your brand or whatever, this is Foodie too. And you can contact me directly too if you have questions. So I'm here to help. Anything food related, creativity related, it's on me.
Hey, thank you for listening. If you like our episodes, subscribe to Dedicated on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. If you want to follow us on socials, you can find us at Dedicated FM on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to contact us, our email is dedicatedfm2022@gmail.com. I hope you enjoy.